We've also seen recently this kind of real change with this movement of kind of the wokeness of the world, and also going back and revising old content and taking it down. And I know temporarily one of your old episodes of Faulty Towers was taken down, and I know you called out against that. Also, because you're a comedian, and a comedian, you walk a fine line between, cultural commentary and entertainment. And sometimes what you say
in this particular case, Brian, I was appalled that the people in charge of the BBC, who are supposed to know something about entertainment, and some of them are supposed to know something about comedy, they don't seem to realize you can attack something in two ways. One is a frontal assault, and the other is like Alf Garnett in Or Till Death Do Us Part, or what was it, Archie Bunker, in the American version of it.
Yes.
You put these ridiculous views into the mouth of someone who's clearly ridiculous, and that's how you ridicule the views. But there are always going to be some completely dumb people who are literal-minded and lack any sense of irony, who are going to say, at last, these things are being said on television, when they're being said in order to make fun of them. So you can't foolproof comedy. People have to have a certain level of intelligence before they get intelligent comedy.
Do you think we should not remove old programming regardless? Or do you think there's always some historical record that's important there? Or do you think there is a time where you need to take down programming?
Well, I'm very dubious about it. I think everyone's on about British imperialism at the moment, and I'm reading a couple of books by Harari, by Noah Harari, I always forget his first name. And he's pointing out that basically empires have been the way of organizing the world for something like 4,500 years. So if you're suddenly going to say this is very wicked, you have to say, well, everything in the last 4,500 years was a bit wicked. The fact is that the history of the world is basically a history of crime. And it's a question of any strong nation was always bullying the weak ones around it. That's not the nasty side of human nature. To try and pretend that the nastiness is all concentrated in the British Empire, which was actually a lot better run than a lot of the other empires. Compare it with Belgium, for example. People who are trying to pretend that all the wickedness are in, no, as Noah Harari says, many good things came out of the empire. What I'm completely against is any kind of thinking that this is all good or this is all bad. That is paranoia. That's the definition of paranoia. And what we need to see is everything spread over a spectrum. Yes, there were all empires everywhere, because that was the way the world was. But some were a bit better than others, and some were worse than others. And on that spectrum, it's interesting to talk. But the whole idea, we got to wrap up 4,500 years of human history, because a few young people in the last 10 years have decided it should be God. It's patently absurd.
What do you think? What do you think when you see statues being pulled down? What do you think?
I guess there are some statues one would want to pull down, but the whole point is a lot of the people whose statues are being pulled down were also philanthropists. And if you say, yes, but they were connected, for example, with the slave trade, well, yeah, well, so were Plato and Socrates. Right, and Aristotle. They believed that culture was only possible with a slave class. Now, what do we do? Not read Plato anymore? Then you've got Isaac Newton. Well, he had shares in the East India Company. So does that mean, and they had slavery. I think it was only 7% of their business, but that means we were going to go back and redo optics again. It's a question of being much more interested and much more balanced about it and looking what's good and what's bad. And if there's someone who's really concerned with slavery, then that, I think there's an argument. I don't mind seeing this going over the Colston guy in Bristol, but of course he did an enormous number of good works. And I have a lot of friends in Bristol, West Countrymen like myself, who actually always thought of him as a philanthropist. So it's not black and white. And the only people who want it to be black and white are people with very paranoid minds. And what worries me about the woke people is they're trying so hard to be pure that they see hatred in everyone else.